evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. We're extremely happy to have you here. Thank you to the French Alliance, to Alliance Française, for giving us the opportunity to play for you tonight. I hope you will enjoy. My name is Paula Casado Aguirregabiria. I'm natural from Barcelona, from Spain. I'm a photographer and I work in the humanitarian sector. I've been working for an NGO called the Jesuit Refugee Service, JRS, for more than 4 years, based here in Nairobi. I'm currently based in South Sudan, working with Doctors Without Borders. Tonight in the stage we'll have Sébastien Moreaux, who is not only an amazing pianist, but he's a great writer and composer. Indeed, tonight, most of the songs that you will listen have been written and composed especially for this event for him, based on the testimonies that we are going to share you, inspired by the photos and the stories that you're going to hear. We hope that you will enjoy tonight as much as him and I we are going to. Thank you. Hola. Sorry. Technical problem, give us a second, please. Ah voilà, trop bien. Ça fonctionnait pendant 3 jours et aujourd'hui ça va et ça ne fonctionne pas. tunajaribu moja tena. Ça va aller. Bah voilà. Sorry, give us 1 second. Sudan, in civil war for over a year. It's more than 13 million forcibly displaced people since April 2023. That's 10 times the population of Barcelona, more than 6 that of Paris. That's 7 million children forced to leave their homes, their families, their lives, to flee the massacre. We don't yet know the exact number of deaths, but according to the horrors reported by those who managed to flee and cross the borders, around 3 million. We know that there will be many, very many. Among them, the majority have crossed into Chad and South Sudan. Chad and South Sudan are inhospitable, belligerent, unstable countries. These are not countries where we go to seek peace and prosperity. Only the luckiest will manage to cross the border from Sudan, but they will still face immense difficulties. These children are among them. When I took this photo, these children had just arrived into Renk, a bordering town between Sudan and South Sudan, 500 kilometers by foot from Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. They arrived there after days of walking, after fear, after living between fear, between hunger. But Sudan is just one example. Myanmar, Ethiopia, Haiti, among others, are among the richest in the world, the most affected by humanitarian crisis. But here in the West, the only flags that we see in bar conversations, in television, in balconies, or in informatives are those of Ukraine, Palestine, and Lebanon. And thanks God that at least we see those three, but we still miss so many others. What we are not aware of, that does not exist. What we don't see, what we don't know, what we don't hear, what we don't listen, that, to us, naturally, does not exist. And that is why we are here today. Because we want to see. We want to see, we want to listen, we want to know. Beyond numbers, beyond news. We want to know the people behind the realities that many of us ignore. The stories, the portraits, the images of some of the people I've met during my years of work in Eastern Africa will allow us to discover some of the faces and stories behind the humanitarian crisis in this region of the world today. We want to shine a light over these realities, to humanize their suffering and highlight their resilience. We want to contribute to the fight against injustices of this world through the beauty of words and music, by looking together at these realities, these stories that we normally don't see. Terry, as a girl, is one of the people in this world who are the easiest to mistreat, to possess, to lie, to kill, to rape, to mutilate, to prostitute. Girls. They are naive and trusting. They have been taught to obey, to keep quiet, to be the object of men's desire, to assist their parents, their husbands, and their children. And if they do not comply, the price to pay can be very high. Terry is no different. Her, a young South Sudanese, beautiful, tall, thin, with an ebony skin, had to flee to save her life, to escape her uncle, her father, her brother, who saw in her a source of wealth, something to bargain with. They wanted to marry her to a man from the village who offered a large sum of money for her. But after her refusal, she had to flee to Kenya, to Kakuma refugee camp, place where I met her. She didn't want to marry a man having already 3 women who looked at her with lust. This man was 60 years old. Her, she was only 13. My name is Salma Ibrahim and I'm 47 years old. Written in large, capital letters, meticulously following the line of the notebook. A few days before, Salma had just learned to write her name and her age. Even there is no official data. It's considered that more than 60% of adults in Somalia are illiterate. Salma, before, was one of them. A few years back, when she arrived in a refugee camp in Ethiopia, where I met her for the first time, she saw women reading and writing. She was astonished. She didn't understand. She didn't understand how it was possible. But she knew that she also wanted to learn. She also wanted to know how to read and write, like the other women in that camp. When she gave me this notebook, she was so happy, so proud of herself. Her eyes were shining. She repeated several times that she wanted to be an example for her children, that the only thing she wanted for them was to have access to education. Because education was the key of getting out of there. Salma, at the age of 46, went to school. It was the first time in her life. I would like to welcome to the stage to a wonderful Sudanese artist, Mohammed Watabo, who was willing to accompany us today, who sings wonderfully and he uses music as a way of counteract the discourse of hate. And I hope that you will enjoy him a lot. Thank you, Mohammed.
زرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى زرقة دوب المرقى قلب بتحرقى أزرق كحل الشيخة ميرم تاج البنات أزرق كحل الشيخة ميرم تاج البنات حير قلبي وفات حير قلبي وفات الله ليه سكر نبات الله ليه سكر نبات جليدة مثل الحرير ندي نفوح عبير جليدة مثل الحرير ندي نفوح عبير قلب القرب يطير قلب القرب يطير الله ليه شاف الكثير الله ليه شاف الكثير زرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى زرقة دوب المرقى قلب بتحرقى زرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى زرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى الزرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى الزرقة دوب المرقى للقلب بتحرقى Thank you so much.
Before I started this work, I remember talking to a teacher of mine in university, sharing with him my fears and concerns of entering the humanitarian world in context of refugees, displacement, and survivors. Was I making the good decision going for this kind of job? Or was I making a mistake? Me, as sensitive as I was, I knew I would feel the suffering of a child in hunger. I knew I would feel the suffering of a woman in pain. Would I ever be able to do this job? And he told me, first and foremost, Paula, if you were not a sensitive person, you would not even wanted to do this job. And he was right. I will always remember one of my first assignments. In Kangemi, a slum in western Nairobi, few minutes away from Lavington's mansions, more than 30 degrees, on a sunny day of January. After leaving the tarmac roads and entering the sandy labyrinths of Kawangware and Kangemi, I arrived into a shared courtyard, a few minutes away from St. Joseph, the Worker Church. Dry, dusty, busy. There was no running water inside the apartments. The toilets were shared. Everyone looking at the weird Muzungu walking in. There, I met Daisy, a Rwandese refugee served by JRS. Daisy was lively. She was happy. She had so much love and care to give. You could feel it in the air when you had her around. After some time spent with her and I entered into his house, a tiny room of barely 10 square meters, with a curtain dividing what it was supposed to be the dining room to the bedroom. She was sitting in the only sofa in the room, while I was sitting in the floor, sharing a chai and listening to her story. It was the first time ever I heard someone telling me the story about how she had been raped multiple times by multiple men while running away from Rwanda some years ago. I had to, or at least try to, hold my tears, feeling to look unprofessional, feeling my imposter syndrome taking over the room. How wouldn't I cry? How wouldn't I empathize with that woman? How in this world would I not feel the pain of such a courageous, resilient human being who was brave enough to rebuild a life full of love and strength after having gone through everything that she was explaining me? I was barely 23 years old, and I can still smell the chai that she had cooked for us. I can still see the shy light coming through the curtains of her house. As of today, more than 4 years later, I have heard way harder stories than that of hers. Some that I not even remember. Nevertheless, I know I will always keep the story of Daisy with me. The first story of such unimaginable resilience. The first of many others that were to come. him was king. King like Mfalme. He was 9 years old when I met him. King, like many other children, was born in Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya. Like many children, he was born in a house made of mud with a straw roof. King has known nothing but the camp of Kakuma. It is his home. He has never known his country, the country of his ancestors, the country his family fled, and the country that he will probably never know. His mother comes from South Sudan. Her, like many others, is a refugee from war. Her, like many others, fled South Sudan carrying her child in her womb. She had to leave her husband there, requisitioned to fight. A husband she has not heard from for the past 10 years. A father that King has never known, and probably he will never know. But when I met him, this little child full of happiness, energy, vitality, with a smile that occupied all his face, I did not feel any sadness nor compassion for him. No. King inspired me a feeling of admiration, of love, and in a certain way, of pride. The pride of a healthy, happy, cheerful child, with dreams for his future, and above all, the desire to live. A child who, thanks to being born in a refugee camp, had had the opportunity to go to school. Today, King is able to read and write. He loves school, where he has many friends. Some of them belong to the South Sudanese tribe that his mother had to flee to survive. When I asked him what he wanted for his future, he told me 2 things. First, he wanted to know his country and meet his father. That, I can still see his eyes shining when pronouncing that word. My heart melted with tenderness. But above all, he wanted to become a teacher, to be able to go to school every day of his life, even when he was an adult. What a kid, what a child, full of courage, of energy and drive. Such a lesson of life. King taught me that in a refugee camp, there's also space for dreams and for hope.
كل بيمشي في الزمن واحد
Truck is moving, you sing, eh? So nice shots.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Just a few words before continue the concert. Just for say that we are really, Paula and I, feeling super lucky and happy to be here tonight and playing for you. And so I'm going to continue alone for a song. It's a song I wrote. It's called Humans, and it's like a hymn to the peace. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
is important to know the stories of these people, not only so we can hear them, but above all, so they can tell them. Anna. She was 15 years old when I met her. She was only 12 when she fled her native South Sudan to go to Uganda. She was only 12 when she had to run away from her school through the bush. She was only 12 the last time she had news from her family. She was only 12 when she had to end her childhood. In Uganda, alone and without any family, she could not continue with school. At home, she made soap to sell in the market to survive. In 2021, I met her during a trip to collect her testimony. A testimony filled with sadness, with grief, but also with the strength and resilience. She was so close to herself when I first met her. I could feel her pain, her mourning, her emptiness in her eyes, in her hands, and especially in her silence. After a few hours together, she began to open up and really talk to me. Her, like so many others, had been raped. Her, like so many others, was alone and afraid. Her, like so many others, despite everything she had gone through, she had the strength and the courage to survive. Her soft voice and her eyes shining with sadness made me feel a special love and empathy towards her. At the end of the interview, after spending almost the whole day together, I asked her one last question. The question I used to ask at the end of every interview. What do you wish for the future? She, as usual, looked at her hands clasped over her legs. She looked at them for a minute or two in silence. For me, it felt way longer. With her soft voice, almost in a whisper, she looked at me and she answered, that you come back. Luckily, the stories I was able to collect in the refugee camps were not only stories of suffering and pain. As everywhere, there are some shadows, but there is also light and hope. That was the case of Mariam. Mariam, when I met her, she couldn't even tell me how old she was. She would tell me while laughing, I know that I'm old, very old. Thank God, she said, because she had already lived long, much longer than she would have lived if she hadn't fled South Sudan when she was still young. She didn't know her age, nor even the day she was born. Mariam whatsoever. She still wanted to celebrate her birthday. She had decided to start celebrating her life on a certain day, a specific day, what she called her Renaissance. The day she crossed the border into Uganda. Mariam didn't remember, or didn't want to remember, her past in South Sudan. It was dark, sad. She thought God had given her a second chance. That was what mattered. Not the beginning of the journey, but the journey itself. One day, her and her husband had taken the little things that they had and they had just gone. To go to a place with peace, to go to a place where trees blossomed, to go to a place where life was possible. With her child in her arms, Mariam and her husband arrived in Adjumani in Uganda, the place they now call home. When I met Mariam, she was surrounded by her children and grandchildren. They were running half naked among the baobabs and the cornfields. In her eyes, I could clearly see the happiness and hope. I could hear them laughing, screaming, playing, far, far away from the sounds of war that Mariam had heard in South Sudan. I could hear their laugh. I could hear the sound of life. Mariam was smiling when I met her. She was grateful to have been able to settle in a place that had welcomed her, a place that even then she felt fulfilled. Luckily, the stories I was able to collect in refugee camps were not only stories of suffering and pain.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Wed Dabbo, all the way from Sudan. This coming song is going to be called For How Long? It talks about the prolonging of war. Like since the 80s, even before we were born, there is a war going on in my country. And it just asks a simple question that for how long are we going to kill each other? For how long are we going to destroy our country? For how long are we going to divide our communities? When peace comes, when we will reunite again. I hope you like it. يغشانا أحلى صباح يرحى الوطن يبرى يصحى وينوم مرتاح قول لي 200 قول لي يغشانا أحلى صباح يرحى الوطن يبرى يصحى وينوم مرتاح العاش أيام ما بين عذاب ونواح بالحب نغطيهم ليهم نداوي جراح العاش أيام ما بين عذاب ونواح بالحب نغطيهم ليهم نداوي جراح نمسح دماعاتهم ليل الأنين ينزاح تصبح حياتنا نعيم للجفوى نرمي سلاح نمسح دماعاتهم وليل الأنين ينزاح تصبح حياتنا نعيم للجفوى نرمي سلاح قول لي 200 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 قول لي دنيتنا تبقى سرور يرجع يعود أخضر غصن الوفا المكسور قول لي 200 قول لي دنيتنا تبقى سرور يرجع يعود أخضر غصن الوفا المكسور دمع الحزن ينسى أطفالنا في السودان ليهم ولينا جميع يبقى السلام موفور، دمع الحزن ينسى أطفالنا في السودان، ليهم ولينا جميع يبقى السلام موفور. قل لي 200 قل لي 200 قل لي 200 قل لي 200. قل لي 200 قل لي يغشانا أحلى صباح، يرحى الوطن يبرى يصحى وينوم مرتاح. قل لي 200 قل لي يغشانا أحلى صباح، يرحى الوطن يبرى يصحى وينوم مرتاح. Thank you.
This project was born during an evening in a small Greek restaurant in the heart of Cairo. We talked about life and death, about justice and injustice, about the misunderstanding, about the ignorance of the world. I was talking about my first trip to the border of Sudan. I was talking about an evening when I went to the banks of the Nile. There were the IOM boats, ready to transport people who had fled the war in Sudan towards new destinies, towards a better future, towards a future without war. I remember slowly approaching the edge of the river. A beautiful pink and orange light, gift of an almost equatorial sunset, illuminated a boat, long, metallic, rusty. Young guys were sitting on top of it. As I approached, inside the boat, I would have never imagined what I was going to see. Thousands of women and children, almost peeling one on top of each other, sitting at the bottom of the boat, and between them, some luggage. Adult women, dignified, all marked by the terror, by the doubt, and the fear of the unknown south the Nile. With at the same time, the hope of finally being able to continue their journey and leave that refugee site of rank where they had found only hunger, insecurity, and for some, even death. As I approached, they stared at me as if asking, what is awaiting for us? When will we get there? Three days of traveling on the Nile, without food, without water, without a space to just arrive to a new camp and relive the same scenario again. That, it was awaiting for them. That image, that feeling in my stomach, those eyes staring at me in that pink and orange light, is one of those images that I will never forget. And it was while telling that story, that evening in South Sudan, while describing that image, that we thought about the importance of bringing these stories and these images here, where in a certain sense, life feels easier. To bring them to people who perhaps would never have been able to see or even imagine them. And after all that, after listening to the stories of the people who seem very far away, but who are not, some of us might perhaps want to do more, to contribute to the fight against the injustices of this world. And there are many ways to do it. But it all starts with a simple act of being here, of looking at them, of listening to them, of knowing their stories, and with one essential thing, with telling them. In Swahili, to say, look at the people, we say, kuona watu. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. As we said at the beginning, I hope that you enjoyed as much as we did. Thank you, Mohammed. You are amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Sébastien. You are amazing. And of course, thank you everybody. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Arista. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Bol. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, John. All that make that possible. Sorry for the technical issues at the beginning. Things of the life. But really, I hope we enjoyed a lot. And as we mentioned at the beginning, this is just one piece of a massive project that we have. We are trying to organize a music event in Kakuma refugee camp. So we are also doing some fundraising for that. So when we go out, we'll be happy to talk to you, to share some glasses of wine or juice or water or whatever is available, to talk to you about the project, to talk about you about whatever you want. And if you want, and you want to know more about this music festival and support financially, there is a table with some M-Pesa numbers in which you can help to help finance this project, and we can give you more details if needed. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We enjoyed a lot. Thanks a lot.
Paula Casado Aguirregabiria, s'il vous plaît.